Hi there, I'm Dr. Kirtana Pakanati from Virginia Mason Franciscan Health. I'm at the ACC 2026 in New Orleans, where I'm joined by Dr. Ajay Gupta, Associate Professor at the Department of Clinical Pharmacology and Precision Medicine at Queen Mary University of London. Welcome, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Kirtana.
You presented the SCRATCH-HTN pilot sham-controlled study on neuromodulation. Can you tell us the top-line findings?
The top-line findings of this phase 2A first in-person study is that TAN treatment, which is transcutaneous autonomic neuromodulation, as compared to sham treatment, is as safe, acceptable to participants with hypertension who are uncontrolled on medications. In this study, there was no significant difference between the two groups. However, there are robust signals that in specific subgroups, especially people with high blood pressures at baseline, this therapy has a potential. We have learned a lot from this trial, given that it's first in-person trial, so that we can devise a more definitive study subsequently. What we do need is improvement in stimulation frequency. We also need to make novel adjustments so that people, for example, in sham arm, do not change their medications and have a effective blinding. So with that, probably this special treatment, as opposed to, for example, renal denervation, can potentially within a couple of 100 pounds for a year, treat patients effectively with high blood pressure and resistant hypertension.
Thank you. And just for people that are watching, can you explain really what neuromodulation entails in this study and what does that mean?
Oh, a very difficult question. Patients with hypertension over the period of time develop altered autonomic functions with increased sympathetic overactivities, and they lose vagal tone. This study, by stimulating outer ear, stimulates the afferents, sensory afferents and cranial nerve afferents, so that it increases the vagal tone to naturally reduce sympathetic activities. Renal denervation works where they burn the sympathetic nerves. We do not do that. We affect the natural system of control, and that is hopefully will reduce the blood pressures and also increase well-being, sleep and other things. So it has lots of potential.
My next question is, how is the sham performed then? How are the patients in the sham arm doing this?
It's a tricky question. When I and my team started thinking about this study, it was clear that if we stimulate the ear, people in an active arm will feel stimulation and sham arm will not. When we train them with the active device, we go to a perception threshold, so people are feeling the stimuli, and then we give them a personalized prescription slightly below the perception level, so they will not feel the stimuli. Okay. So that was how we designed this study. We told the patients they may or may not feel it to keep the blinding intact. Having said that, there's no perfect way of blinding these kind of devices. We tried our best and we calculated the blinding index in these patients. We were partially successful. The devices were identical. In theory, they should not have felt anything. The perception levels changes over the period of time, and some people may have perceived it and others may not. So this is how the devices worked. They did not deliver current in sham arm, but they did deliver the current in active arm.
So just to confirm, in both arms, the participants were told that they may not feel the process, just to keep it consistent.
May or may not feel it. So we said may feel or may not feel it.
Okay, but across both arms.
Yes.
And then were some people just responding better than others in this process, would you say? I mean, you explained that this was an overall negative trial with lessons to be learned, of course, but were some people responding better than others?
This was a small study, 63 patients,
Mm-hmm.
2:1 randomizations, 42 in 10 arms, which is active arm. We found that people who had high blood pressures, significantly higher baseline systolic blood pressures, they responded significantly better on TAN treatment. In fact, reduction of blood pressure of 12 millimeter in these patients. Overall, it was negative though.
Where do you see this going next? What's next for you in this line?
It's an exciting technology, has a huge potential. We do need to find a more effective way of exciting or recruiting the afferent nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do that, this not only will help in blood pressures, there are other studies showing improvement in exercise capacity, feeling of well-being, and all other medical conditions where sympathetic overactivity is documented, for example, heart failure patients. This may be a useful treatment to go with. Further studies will be to develop a better way of stimulation and also to find a good phenotype of patients. Right now we had all comers
Mm-hmm.
who are uncontrolled on 1 to 4 medications. I believe that we should enrich the future cohort with higher blood pressures, with markers of sympathetic overactivities, and also people like, for example, isolated diastolic hypertension. So we probably need to get those kind of enrichment more, and that will potentially develop this technology further, and if it's successful, it can be scalable to masses.
You briefly touched on this, but what other CV applications are using neuromodulation, and is that something that's current practice, or are you anticipating that'll come to current practice?
If you Google vagal stimulation, it's very much over-the-counter thing for well-being, and it has been used for people with, for example, migraine and epilepsy. However, from a cardiovascular perspective, I foresee they're used in resistant hypertension, people with heart failure most likely, and more cardio-renal conditions where increased sympathetic outflow is there.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Gupta. This is Kirtana Pakanati signing off for Medscape.
Thank you, Ketna. My pleasure.